My name is Nikolaos Ventikos. I'm an assistant professor at the Laboratory for Maritime Transport at the School of Naval Architecture and Marine Engineering from the National Technical University of Athens. When we discussed with Apostolos the topic of my presentation, of my talk, we came up with the human element on board ships, aspects of behavioral based safety, BBS. I would like to say that NTUA usually presents a lot of equations, figures, and all that stuff, but I try to keep my presentation in an informative level, in a high level overview, so that you will have a flavor of what we are doing, this small piece of our research at our laboratory. Okay, so human beings, by their very nature, make mistakes. This is not new, eh? Therefore, it is unreasonable to expect error-free human performance. Sappel and Wakeman back in 1997. We can see here the Costa Concordia, Exxon Valdez, Prestige, and down on the left-hand side, it's our own Sea Diamond. They're all accidents that are associated in some way with human factor. We all have, all managing companies, all ship-owning companies, all companies have safety management systems. They have safety programs. Why do they fail? Because safety is treated as an obligation, a priority, and not as a value. Not treating safety as a value, we are losing the possibility of integrating in the structure of the company. We have the traditional safety approach. Always, we are targeting at the minimization of marine accidents. How? Many ways. Safety policy, training, meetings, slogan, awards, blah, 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 regulation goes on. This is the traditional safety approach, what we all do. When we are talking about maritime, about marine safety, we are actually talking about accidents, fire, explosion, grounding, collision, goes on. And it's a well-known factor, this 80-20%, that the human factor can be responsible for about 80% of the causes that lead to maritime accidents, whereas the rest of 20% is, let's say, technological reasons, act of God, and goes on. However, if we want a little bit to decompose this human factor box, then we can say that we have two major pillars under there. We have the failure of professional culture and the failure of behavior. This presentation is mainly focusing on behavior and an overview of our research on this field. So from Flynn and Al, to their work back in 2006, we have that in order to ameliorate, to enhance, to strengthen the final task or job performance, we have the integration of organizational culture, organization, and behavioral skills. So we're talking about organization and the individual. In many high-risk industries, how do we pursue safety? By the well-known CRM, Crew Resource Management, which is according to Lauber, back in 1984, that we use all the available resources, which mean information, equipment, and of course people, to achieve safe and efficient operation. This is the target, safe and efficient operation. It all started back in the aviation industry. However, it has already passed in our own industry. I'm certain that you've all heard about BRM, Bridge Resource Management, or Engine Room Resource Management. So, which are the primary goals of this CRM, of this tool, of this vehicle that we use in order to achieve safety? First, to mitigate consequences. The error is there. B, to trap error, so we avoid some step of its escalation. And C, to avoid error altogether. How we can do that? By CRM training. And when we're talking about CRM training, then a new term comes in, which is the non-technical skills, NTS, And so we can have non-technical skills. This is adapted from a work back from Helmerich and Schaeffer in 1996. What are these famous non-technical skills, or otherwise put, soft skills? Okay, they are cognitive, social, and personal response skills that actually complement technical skill. In our industry, technical skill is, for instance, the knowledge of Marpol or the knowledge of Solas, and contribute, once again, to safe and efficient task performance. This is a very well-used definition from Flynn back in 2008. To be more specific, as I've already mentioned, we have three super umbrellas: cognitive, social, and personal resource, which can be further decomposed in situational awareness, decision-making, communication, teamwork, leadership, managing the stress, and of course, coping with fatigue. Fatigue is it's a huge issue. However, all of us that we are into STCW, I'm certain that we have already heard terms like teamwork and leadership. So these non-technical skills are getting integrated, are partially integrated in our effort. A new way now to proceed this task for safe and efficient performance is BBS, Behavioral Based Safety. BBS steps in, actually, to eliminate or reduce the marginal or the remaining unsafety portion in our industry after the enforcement of legislation, the installation of new technology, new rules. So what we are targeting now are behaviors. We are always talking about human element and human factors on board the vessel. But what is a behavior? The observed variability, according to Domke back in 2001, in behavior is attributable to differences in the person's characteristics, to difference in the situations, and or to the interplay of both of these factors. So, if we are talking about human behavior, B, which is a purposive reaction of a human being, P, to a meaningful situation, S, then this can be expressed as B equals a function of P, S. I much more prefer that behavior is actually anything you see a person does. This is a behavior. So if you can see it, then you are actually seeing, you are actually watching a behavior. So, complementing or going further from the traditional approach, we have the BBS approach. The BBS approach has the safety activities. We integrate a step of studying and aiming at fewer at-risk behaviors in order, once again, to minimize accidents, to have an increased and enhanced and strengthened marine safety. At-risk behavior includes three main categories. Conscious behavior, like the guy there, who's putting his head in the mouth of the crocodile, habitual behavior, and unintentional behavior. More or less, BBS is about the two last bullets. For example, in our industry, unintentional behavior may be the officer on watch that fall asleep. So, the focus of behavioral-based safety is upon what people do, analyzes why they do it, and then applies strategy to improve what they do. Moreover, we are studying at-risk behaviors that can lead to loss, but also we are studying safety and safe-prone behaviors that can contribute to loss prevention. Ways to prevent unwanted mistakes or errors in the front line are exactly under the microscope, under the basics of BBS. And this is very, very important because we are not so much interested, or we are not only interested in what went wrong, but we're interested of how we're conducting business. So it is BBS, it's actually safe seafarers, because we have already more or less very safe ships from a technological point of view. It is about behavior management. It is about observation and feedback, that loss is equal to management errors, so we have SOAR personnel here, measures behaviors versus results, and of course, we can have positive reinforcement, which actually can really provide impressive results. What BBS is not, it is not based on assumptions and personal feelings. It shouldn't. It is not only about observation and feedback. It is not concerning only the behavior of seafarers, but also of shore personnel. It is not about cheating and manipulating people. The focus should be on accident rates without a focus on behavior. This is wrong. And a process that does not need employee involvement. This is not BBS. BBS needs the involvement of all levels in a structured and systematic way. So we all know the famous accident pyramid. We have the various tiers. The bases start with near misses, which is very difficult to record, as I understand, and as I experienced with various research that we're doing at NTUA. Then we have damage, minor, major injury, and of course at the tip, fatalities. So in the same context, we can have the BBS-oriented pyramid, which has an extra, tier. At the base, prior to near misses, we are studying at-risk behaviors. And this is very crucial, because this means that we are actually doing something really proactive. In this way, we have human behavior, which is then observable. We can observe it, and we can measure it. And this is very, very important. We have developed models that we can measure behavior as this is defined earlier in this presentation. Therefore, we can manage it. And this is very important, because if we can have such a model which is well calibrated, then training can have a completely different orientation, a completely different practice. Going further, we have the term of attitudes. At NTUA, what we are trying to do is we're trying to develop attitude-based modeling, not just studying attitudes, but integrate in a quantitative manner attitudes in our behavioral-based safety approach. So what are attitudes? They are something inside our head. They are difficult to observe and measure, and however, attitudes can be easily be influenced by behaviors, by altering behaviors. Why? Because a very simple definition of attitudes, it is that an attitude is a set of behaviors set in a specific time span for certain topic or for similar topics. So this set of behaviors, they construct, they develop, they come up with an attitude. If we can alter, if we can tamper with the behaviors, then we can tamper with the attitude and the whole way of proceeding to a process. We are using the so-called ABC model. A stands for activators. Imagine functions, events that they actually trigger the behavior, an emergency call or something like that. B stands for behavior, which is actually the human performance that we are studying. And C, and this is very interesting, are consequences. So these consequences can either, at the end, either reinforce or punish behavior. And this is very, very important, because this way we can have a function of consequences related to behavior. Closing, I hope that I'm in time. Closing, why do we want to implement BBS? Because it actually generates safety culture. It demands total involvement of company towards safety. It establishes a truly proactive manner to deal with safety. Safety, after all, is all about people, so people should be involved. As I already mentioned in my previous slide, we can somehow connect consequences and behavior. So, for example, we can have positive reinforcement or negative reinforcement. Those are two different approaches. It is actually motivating. We have performance feedback. It creates a broad awareness in terms and in the context of safety, and it has proven its effectiveness, BBS, in other high-risk industries like the nuclear, like the aviation, or like the railway industry. Safety is indeed a very, very interesting, topic in our industry. We can see here, this is not recycling. This is shipbuilding and repairing. This is not recycling. We can see this poor guy here that he's very well equipped to do what he's doing. He's wearing a very nice mask, a very nice form, gloves, boots, and everything. Safety is a rather interesting topic. Closing, and I would like once more to thank Apostolos for his invitation. I would like first of all to acknowledge the help that I got from my PhD student, Mr. Likos, who is actually developing these quantitative models for this type of approach in order to study safety from the human factors point of view. And I would like to thank all of you for your attention, and I welcome you to visit our site. It's www.martrans.org, the website of our laboratory at NTUA, where you can find a lot of things on this topic and on other topics that we are working on, like risk assessment, maritime environment, and all this stuff. Thank you very much.